Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all having a great day so far. So in this video we will be creating another huge modern family home within the Sims 4 on a 50 by 40 lot within Del Sol Valley, mainly because I just really love building on this world. I just really like that sort of like city view, and I feel like this build is the perfect one to place within this sort of area within this world in my opinion. And we're actually starting off by creating this very modern look and design for this home. It doesn't look like a regular home that you would see like being created, if that makes sense, because it incorporates a lot of these like unique sort of designs and shapes throughout the entire home, which I feel like looked really interesting. And I was actually inspired to build this from a real life house that I have seen on Instagram, so that's where most of like the main exterior inspiration comes from. And I just really loved how interesting it looked, but as I was building it I just felt like it didn't really look the same as I was building it in the Sims, so I just had to change up a few things here and there, which you might actually notice if you guys have seen this house before on like your timelines on Instagram or whatnot. But yeah, I'm really happy with the overall product with it, mainly because it just looks like a realistic home that you will probably be able to play in within the Sims. Because I know I create like a lot of these like huge mega mansions that I feel like some people just might not want to play with it because it's a bit too big, but this one in particular is just like the perfect size for like a modern day like family home, if that makes sense. It has about like 5 bedrooms, and most of them have their own en-suites with 2 public bathrooms on like multiple different floors. Actually, we have 3 floors in total for this home, and you might actually notice that we're actually starting off with this very intricate roofing design that we have going on throughout the entire home. So we're utilizing a lot of different variations. We have some slanted roofs, we have some peaked roofs, as well as like some of these like corner wedges, as well as like quite a lot of flat roofing as well. So yeah, it just incorporates a lot of these like modern home sort of features within this home in particular. And you might actually notice how weird and intricate and interesting looking shape we have going on so far for the exterior. Like it's sort of like this L shape that sort of extends towards the back garden area. But yeah, I just feel like it kind of was a nice, interesting and unique take for creating a house. So I wanted to go forth with it and just like play around and see what I could probably create with it. I love how I just like sort of extended out certain parts of the home to make it feel a bit more interesting rather than keeping it like flat, square or rectangular shape. I feel like it just made it look a lot more interesting. And I'm kind of going with this corrugated metal roofing style for pretty much all of the roofing pieces, with like this very nice black frame around it, and I just feel like it looks the most interesting and it sort of just like stands out. And the real home that I was sort of just like inspired from creating this build from did actually utilize that as well. So I was just like, you know what, might as well just utilize it since it does look good there. It probably look good within the Sims build as well. And you might actually notice that we have this very huge sort of slanted roofing in the center of the home, which I feel like didn't really look that interesting because it was just like a flat piece of metal that was just like slanted. So instead I just went back and added a very nice huge skylight in the center of that, and I just feel like it looked super interesting, as well as with the addition of adding a lot of these like realistic features on top of the roofings, such as like solar panels and stuff like that, which came from the eco lifestyle expansion pack, as well as adding quite a lot of these like modern chimneys throughout the entire home just to make it feel a bit more realistic. As we are going off of like these like more modern and realistic homes, I wanted to stay true to the picture and just like try to create something that looked as modern and realistic as possible. And we're actually going with one of the taller wall heights for the first floor. And the main reason why I actually decided to like sort of elevate those walls to be like the tallest wall height was because although the house is relatively big, it still felt a little bit small. So I feel like just by like elevating that wall height just a bit more made it feel a bit more extravagant in my opinion, and sort of just like stayed true to that sort of modern feel that I was trying to go for. Because I feel like a lot of these modern homes in real life have these very huge floor to ceiling walls, and I just wanted to sort of get that image across within this build in particular as well. And I just really love how the roofing and designing of this home sort of like turned out. It just feels like a more industrial sort of build, but still incorporates a lot of these like modern elements, which I feel like make it look a bit more interesting than a regular modern home, if that makes sense. And I also wanted to add some sort of like windows on the edges of the slanted roofing that we have in the center of the home, which I feel like turned out pretty nice. I wish we had some extra pieces that sort of aligned specifically to those slanted roofing sort of like walls, I guess, because I wanted it to sort of just like blend in and seem as if it was just like one whole piece rather than having those blank corners. But I still feel like it turned out really great in the end, especially since it sort of just like got the main image across, if that makes sense. And we do have quite a lot of these like outdoor patio areas and gardens and balconies that look out throughout the entire home, which I feel like looks super nice, especially with that sort of city background that you have going on. I just feel like it looks really interesting. I still feel like it would be perfectly suitable in other lots and different like areas and worlds within the Sims, but just feel like I enjoy placing this one and just like utilize in this world in particular. And yeah, I just utilize a lot of these like iron columns, beams and stuff like that, just to like make it look and feel a bit more interesting, as well as like utilizing a lot of these like floor to ceiling windows and stuff. And if you guys aren't really a big fan of the tallest wall height, you guys can definitely just go ahead and just like turn it down into the medium one. Mainly because I just feel like the shortest wall height is always a bit too short, even though I do actually love utilizing that wall height in particular for my second and third floors and whatnot. I feel like it's perfect to have like the medium or tall wall height on the first floor, because I just feel like it makes it look a bit more interesting in my opinion. And I also noticed how like once I finished building up until this point, the third floor didn't really feel like it was anything. Like there wasn't really enough space to like create it into like a room or like a particular sort of like space or whatnot. It was mostly like outdoorsy, and I didn't really like that, so instead I just ended up changing that and just like made it way more bigger and just like reduced the amount of balcony space that there was, just so that we can incorporate some more interior sort of space, if that makes sense. And I also wanted to incorporate an outdoor kitchen area that sort of just like felt a bit more realistic, mainly because I feel like it would be a really nice area to sort of just like sit down and hang around in. So yeah, I just feel like it kind of made sense to place it right next to the swimming pool area. And I actually decided to change the roofing design that we had for this outdoor kitchen unit area to be the one that came from the eco lifestyle. So it sort of has that hexagonal design on the roofing, which I feel like made a nice little distinction. I feel like it made it look a bit more interesting. And I just added some fake columns around both sides of it, just to make it feel as if it was sort of just like elevated and supported, along with adding a very nice simple chimney, because later on we'll be adding a nice fireplace right in the center of this sort of kitchen area, which I feel like made it look a bit more cozy and comfortable to chill out and hang around in. And we're also utilizing quite a lot of these like huge tiled sort of concrete flooring for the exterior of the home. However, this does actually end up changing, mainly because I just felt like it was a bit too textured for my liking, because we already have a lot of details going on throughout the entire roofing and the wallpapers and whatnot. So I just feel like I wanted to simplify the sort of pavement area for the exterior. So we actually do go for something that was a bit more simpler, that didn't really have a lot of these like grout lines going on around it. So yeah, I just feel like it made it look a bit more modern and simplistic in my opinion. And yeah, we do also, as you guys can see right now, I just utilized this sort of like jacuzzi sort of buried into the ground. I don't know how functional that would be, mainly because I did actually place a platform there and just like sort of lowered it below the floor and sort of just like place a jacuzzi inside of it. And I haven't actually tested it as I'm speaking right now, but I'll eventually go back and sort of just like fix a few things before uploading it to the gallery. So yeah, it will hopefully be functional. But either way, I just feel like it does actually look really nice there, even if it isn't really that functional, and sort of just makes it feel a bit more realistic. But if you guys did want it to be functional, and if it wasn't like this, I'll probably add some like stairs on either side of it, just like going down towards it, so that it's actually functional. But I didn't really mind it too much, to be honest. And we did actually utilize quite a lot of spray paint throughout this entire home as well, just like utilizing that very nice dark green and like bright greens throughout the entire home, because I feel like the main lot does come with this like very weird sort of like yellowy, greeny, grassy textures going on throughout the entire lot, which I feel like didn't really fit that sort of modern and minimalistic design style that I was trying to go for, if that makes sense. But yeah, moving on into the front of the home now, we're actually starting off by placing this very huge sort of checkered flooring throughout the entire sort of like front main entrance area of the home. And I didn't know what I was thinking at the time. I probably just was trying to find something that looked really interesting to like look at, but overall I just felt like it didn't really fit the theme and like the vibe that I was trying to go for this home in particular, because I was trying to go for like a more modern and simplistic looking theme and like vibe, but this was just a bit too detailed for my liking. So we do actually end up changing this to a more simplistic sort of concrete style, which you would see later on in the video, and we don't actually keep that center blank. And I did also go around just adding a bunch of windows here and there, just like trying to fill out a lot of these like plain walls and just like trying to utilize them as much as possible by placing a lot of these like nice, intricate and detailed looking windows. I did actually end up using quite a lot of the windows that came from the new businesses and hobbies expansion pack, mainly because they were just really suitable in certain positions, especially that 3 tiled glass window, which I feel like looks super nice, and I feel like I'll definitely be utilizing that in my future sort of modern builds, because I feel like it definitely does come in handy to have a 3 tiled one rather than having to utilize a 2 tiled one all the time, if that makes sense. And I'm also utilizing these very huge snowy escape doors, which I feel like look super great on that very flat wall that we have going on, which is actually the garage area. And I was envisioning in my mind as I was building this to sort of just like renovate that sort of garage area into like a home business, if that makes sense, because I feel like this is like the perfect lot to play in. If you guys do have that expansion pack, it will just be like the great place to sort of just like change that into a functional working space, if that makes sense. And since it's not really integrated within the main part of the home, I feel like it doesn't really matter with it being like business there, if that makes sense. And especially since once we get onto the interior, you actually notice that we do actually have a very nice bathroom that is right next to that sort of garage area, which I feel like you could definitely turn it into like a public bathroom area for like the business and whatnot. So yeah, I just feel like it's like a great space to renovate and turn it into something that your Sims would actually be able to utilize. And right now we're just adding some furniture to the exterior of the garden area. Now I don't really know what expansion pack that fencing came with, but that very nice floor fencing that I have utilized throughout all of the sort of like concrete patio area made it look a bit more interesting. It sort of just like made it stand out and differentiated it from that very bright green grass that we have going on throughout the entire lot, which I feel like made it look a bit more interesting in my opinion. And I sort of just like replicated that same design throughout all of the concrete and patio flooring that we have throughout the entire exterior, which I feel like overall just like made it look a bit more interesting. And instead of utilizing that sort of black wicker outdoor garden furniture pieces, I wanted to utilize the ones that came from the Desert Luxe kit, which I feel like look a bit more modern and minimalistic, which is sort of just like the goal that I was trying to go for when trying to create this build. So yeah, we actually utilized the very nice sort of like stone tables and seating pieces which came from that kit in particular, as well as incorporating some other sort of armchairs that I felt suitable to incorporate into a back garden area. And once again, just like creating a fake sort of coffee table by utilizing the Spade slab, which I feel like always comes in handy when I'm trying to create these minimalistic and modern homes. And we do also have a very huge sort of dining table area for the outdoor area of this home as well, just like trying to make it feel a bit more like a nice gathering area, if that makes sense. And of course also creating some very nice sun lounge area, as well as incorporating a very nice fireplace, which I feel like looked really nice with all of the pillows around it. And once again, we're going back into the front of the home, and you might actually notice that we pretty much already incorporated a lot of the greenery that we have going on throughout the entire home. And I also wanted to incorporate a nice sort of fountain feature in the center of this home, mainly because I just felt like it looked really bare without anything being there, especially since we changed that flooring to be this very simple minimalistic looking concrete rather than having it being like checkered or detailed. I feel like it just like added a nice extra touch to making this home feel just a bit more modern. And once again, we're just adding some very nice solar panels which came from Eco Lifestyle onto certain parts of the slanted roofs. I didn't want to fill every single roof piece that was slanted with like a lot of solar panels, because I just felt like it might just make the build look a bit too busy than it really needs to be. So yeah, I just added it in certain places where I felt like it was feeling a little bit empty and bare. But yeah, I just went around the entire home, just like added a lot of these small details that I didn't really show throughout the entire build, mainly because I feel like adding a lot of greenery throughout this entire home was just very time consuming and just like trying to place everything one by one. So yeah, I did actually end up skipping some parts of it, but I do actually end up adding some additional trees and palm trees throughout this entire home later on in the video as well. And here's where I just noticed that I just feel like this third floor just was like very small and it didn't really have any space, and most of it was like a balcony, so I didn't really like that. So instead I just ended up changing that into being one whole sort of like functional bedroom, if that makes sense. And yeah, so moving on into the interior of the build now, you can sort of just like get a gist of what the floor plan actually looks like as I'm placing down the flooring and the wallpaper and whatnot. But we're actually going with this very nice sort of wooden paneling for the flooring, which came from the Businesses and Hobbies expansion pack, which I just really love that we got like another variation of this flooring, because the one I used to utilize quite often was the one from Eco Lifestyle, but I just feel like this one also looks really nice, especially if you're trying to get that realistic yet cartoony sort of look and design, if that makes sense. And especially since the expansion pack is brand new, I just wanted to utilize certain parts of it just so you guys can sort of just like get an idea of what and how you guys can sort of like utilize those certain objects and pieces and whatnot. But yeah, we're also going with a very nice Dream Home Decorator modular pieces, and we're also utilizing the base game kitchen cabinets for the main cabinets areas around the entire home, which I feel like looks really nice and has become one of my favorite kitchen cabinets that I've been utilizing throughout pretty much all of my entire modern homes, because they just come in these very nice simple colors that pretty much work with the other color swatches that come from other packs. So as you guys can see right now, the cabinets work perfectly fine with the sort of like color that we have for the wall cabinets, if that makes sense, which came from Dream Home Decorator. And yeah, it's just like perfect when it comes together overall. And in the area where the fridge is, I sort of wanted to create some sort of built-in unit area, but I couldn't really do that with the Dream Home Decorator one. So instead what I just did was I just placed the base game cabinets on either side, as well as like adding 2 fridges in between, while also adding those very huge sort of wall cabinets along like the top side of the kitchen area, which I feel like turned out really nice and extravagant. It sort of just like gets the point across that it looks sort of built in my opinion, I guess. And we also utilized the island counters for the main island area for this kitchen, because I just feel like I just really love that waterfall design. And I actually really loved how this dining table area turned out as well, especially with those very huge sort of floor to ceiling windows that we have that are sort of just like meeting in the corner of the room, which I feel like makes it look super interesting. And I just like changed different colors of the same sort of chair that we have going on throughout the entire dining table, just to make it feel a bit more unique and interesting, rather than incorporating the same color for all of the 6 chairs, if that makes sense. And I really wanted to incorporate a very dark sort of accent color on this specific wall right next to the dining table as well. And I just ended up going with the one that came from the Business and Hobbies expansion pack, because I just really love that really dark muted sort of green color that we have on that accent wall in particular. I just feel like it turned out really nice, especially since we don't really have something like that within the game already. I tried to experiment with the one that came from the Love Struck expansion pack. However, that one sort of had like this snake skin scale sort of design for the wallpaper, and I wasn't really trying to add additional details than I really needed to. I sort of just wanted something that looked really plain and simple, and I feel like that one worked out really nicely. And we did also incorporate quite a lot of these like different lighting fixtures throughout the entire home as well. So you might actually notice that although we do actually utilize a lot of spotlights throughout the entire home, a lot of the main parts of the home do actually have like their own lighting units and fixtures. And onto the hallway for this left hand side of the home, we actually wanted to incorporate a very nice sort of laundry area in this particular space of the home, which I feel like kind of made sense, especially since it was kind of like a small space to work with, and I just felt like it was like the perfect place to add a very nice simple sort of laundry area. And especially since we're trying to go for that really realistic and modern theme, I went with a very nice black and white theme for this room in particular, which I feel like turned out really nice, especially since most of my laundries in other houses and whatnot, I kind of go with this like very simple baby blue or like a white theme, and it was kind of just like a nice change to go with a more darker theme for that room in particular, if that makes sense. And yes, now we're actually moving on into the living room area, which is pretty much on the other side of where we had that sort of fridge sort of built-in area. And I just really love how this part in particular turned out, mainly because I'm actually utilizing the refined living room kit sort of pieces, and I just really love those sofas in particular. I just feel like they look really modern and minimalistic, mainly because they don't really have any like cushions on them or whatnot, and they come in this very nice simple off-white color, which I feel like turned out really nice, especially with the incorporation of this sort of built-in TV and storage unit area, which came from that Casanova Cave kit, I believe. There's literally so many kits in this game now, like it's pretty hard to like remember every single one of their names. But yeah, I just really love how it turned out overall, mainly because I just feel like all the objects fit in well together, especially with that very nice marble coffee table that we have in the center of the build. I just feel like it turned out really nice with the rest of the color scheme that I was trying to go for. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is quite a minimalistic looking sort of living space, but all of the color pretty much comes out from the rest of the objects that we see throughout the entire build. And you don't have to worry about if you guys really prefer a lot more color, because a lot of the bedrooms and stuff do actually incorporate different accent wallpapers, and the bedrooms and the beds itself have different like colors and whatnot on top of them. So yeah, we do actually take into consideration to add a lot of different color throughout the entire build, just like not in certain places, if that makes sense, because I wanted the main areas of the home to feel a bit more simplistic and minimal, if that makes sense. And now we're actually moving on into the main office area, which is right next to where the dining table is. So we're pretty much right back to where the left hand side of the home is. And I actually started off with creating this very nice simple sort of desk area, and I knew I wanted to have some sort of seating within this office space in itself, because I just feel like we had quite a lot of space to like work with, and I wanted to incorporate something that felt a bit more formal, and yeah, just like added some very nice sort of minimalistic looking modern paintings, as well as like a very nice fireplace. And initially I really liked having the fireplace like in the center of the room, or like where the main wall area was. However, I just felt like it was a bit too invasive, so I moved it off into the side, and I just really loved how it looked on that 2x1 sort of poking out bit that we have within this sort of like main office area. And I just added some clutter here and there, as well as like the tray that comes with like a very nice coffee, as well as like a book, because I just feel like that looks and feels really realistic in my opinion. And I actually really wish that we had a fireplace that sort of was integrated within the wall, pretty much like the 2x1 sort of wardrobes that we have that sort of like fit in inside of the wall. I feel like there's a very good opportunity to create a very nice modern, or even like a contemporary or traditional looking fireplace that was actually built in within the wall, rather than it being like an object that pokes out from the wall, if that makes sense. And we can also have like ones that were like two-sided, so that it sort of like made it feel a bit more interesting and modern. But yeah, moving on into one of the guest bedrooms that we have on the first floor of this home. As I did mention, we do actually have 5 bedrooms including the nursery within this build, and this is actually being one of them. So yeah, it's actually on the main floor of the home. You don't need to go upstairs or anything like that. And I just sort of like added some general sort of clutter that you would expect in any sort of bedroom that you would see, and I sort of just like kept with this simple sort of beige bright wood color and tone throughout the entire bedroom, because I didn't want to create something that was a bit too cluttered or too extreme, mainly because this was built with the intention of it being a guest bedroom, if that makes sense. And it does also have its own ensuite as well, and it does also have direct access right into the garden area, which I feel like is quite luxurious in my opinion. But yeah, so moving on into the second floor now, which is adding some lighting fixtures just so we can see a bit more clearly as we're building and progressing throughout the entire build. And since the businesses and hobbies expansion pack was relatively new, I knew I wanted to incorporate certain objects and furniture pieces from that pack in particular, and the bed was mainly one of them, mainly because I just feel like this expansion pack in particular felt really modern and minimalistic, and I feel like it kind of just like fits the sort of style and theme that I like building with. And I also really love utilizing that wooden lines paneling wallpaper that we got from this expansion pack as well. I just feel like it turned out really nice, especially with the incorporation of the additional beiges and other colors that we have going on throughout all of the bedrooms as well. And of course, I also utilized my favorite dream home decorator modular pieces to create this very nice sort of walk-in wardrobe area, which I feel like turned out really nice. And I also love utilizing that poof, which came in one of the recent packs. I don't remember which one it was, but I just really love utilizing that as well, along with the very nice sort of mirror that we got from the business and hobbies expansion pack as well, which has that very nice sort of like light up ring around it, which I actually really love utilizing that one, because I always used to utilize the one that came from Spa Day. And yeah, it just like gives the player another opportunity to utilize a different version of that, if that makes sense. And I also tried to utilize the new fireplace within this bedroom as well. I don't know how it would turn out or how realistic it would probably be, because I feel like it's kind of a fireplace that would be probably used in a garden area rather than inside of the home, but I feel like it kind of still looked really modern and interesting, and I still wanted to incorporate it within that bedroom in particular. And we had this very huge sort of hallway that wasn't really being utilized by anything, so instead I just added a very nice huge arch, as well as trying to create some sort of like gaming room environment, just trying to create some additional functionality objects throughout this entire build in particular, and this was mainly one of them. And yeah, so now we're actually moving on into the nursery area, which has this very huge spacious design and layout, and I just really love how that certain part of the center of the room sort of pokes out and has this very nice view of the front area of the home. I just felt like that was like the perfect place to place a very nice and simple nursery, and I did actually utilize certain objects from the Storybook nursery kit just to like make it feel a bit more complete. But I did actually try to focus on creating it by utilizing most of the base game objects, as well as like the ones that came from Growing Together. And I also knew I wanted to create a very nice sort of modular wardrobe for the kids area as well, that was like sort of just like a replica of the main bedrooms ones, if that makes sense. And I just really love creating that right next to where the changing table is. I just feel like it feels a bit realistic to have a place where you can hang your kids' clothes, in my opinion. And I feel like this room in particular is really big, to the point where you can definitely have multiple cribs if you guys are willing to sort of change it and incorporate some additional functionalities within this room in particular. But yeah, I just feel like it turned out really nice with having that one right in the center of this sort of like window bay area, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I just went around and added some additional furniture pieces and clutter to make it feel like an actual nursery, such as like the curtains as well as like the other toys and whatnot. And yeah, so moving on into the final bedroom that we have for this entire house, which is actually based on the third floor, which is pretty much supposed to be non-existent, mainly because in the real home this entire area was sort of just like this outdoor sort of balcony area, which I feel like wasn't really going to be that functional within the Sims 4. So instead I just ended up turning it into a very nice bedroom, which I feel like turned out really nice, especially since it is quite a spacious one, and it incorporates this very nice sort of modular furniture pieces from Dream Home Decorator to make this very nice walk-in wardrobe area, as well as incorporating some nice muted colors throughout this entire room, because although this house is very minimalistic, I still wanted to incorporate some nice color. So we do have this very nice sort of like muted blues and grays and off-whites colors going on throughout this entire bedroom in particular, and of course just added a very nice sort of simple desk area. And of course I also wanted to incorporate some additional furniture pieces for the balcony area, and I sort of just like utilize these individual armchairs, which I feel like look like wicker seats for outdoors, even though it wasn't really in the outdoor section, but I feel like it turned out really nice to just like utilize it for the outdoor area for pretty much this entire home. And we do also have a very simple sort of main bathroom area, which is not really an ensuite, but it kind of technically is, mainly because I feel like nobody else would probably be going up to the third floor to actually use this bathroom. And then I pretty much just like went around the entire home, sort of just like added some additional clutter and furniture pieces throughout the entire home, such as like some external lights and furniture pieces and whatnot. And yeah, that seems to be pretty much it for this entire speed build. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think by leaving a like and subscribing, and comment down below if you guys like this build. I would really love to know your thoughts and suggestions down below. And I do also have a bunch more videos like this on the channel if you guys are interested in things like these. And yeah, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.